And if you could, any of us who have the name tags, you can give it to us. So, withholding payments to insurance companies will cause people to lose coverage. This is one of President Trump's threats, I suppose. What will you do about that if you do decide to withhold those insurance payments to companies, payments to insurance companies? What will you do to protect individuals and your constituents should that happen?
You know, I do want to get back to what they've gone on record saying. Do you guys find it pretty disturbing that there are these dark hints of what's to come when they say take responsibility for what happens in the future?
Yes.
How many of you all believe that what they'll do now is simply strangle the, frankly, half-assed inadequate system that we currently have in one big I told you so to the American people? I mean, am I just alone in that? I think that's what's going to go on. I think that's what they're alluding to when, you know, people take responsibility for this for years to come. And Trump saying, oh, it'll explode or implode or some kind of quote. Anyway, just thought I'd point that out because they all echo that. Yes, sir.
Hello, I'm Reverend John S. Andrews, and I put Reverend on the front of it because as a minister of the Christian Church, happens to be the Disciples of Christ Christian Church, and having retired, spent 30 years in ministry, I find it appalling that these gentlemen, that you all seem to raise the banner of faith, that you would kick out my brothers and sisters who are all children of Islam, the Jews, the Muslims, etc., and me, and somehow call that Christian. That's the first thing. On health care, I agree with the young woman that was talking about all these issues kind of fold together. And I have a chronic illness, but hey, I'm a white male and I've had coverage all my life. And I got on Medicare recently as I retired, and I just can't believe everybody doesn't have that. It's the coolest thing. And I pay a supplement. It's not cheap, but you know. But I was able to continue my coverage with a very severe pre-existing for 30 years because I was able to work. I have a daughter, however, that had a chronic illness, and we took care of that under our insurance, my wife and I both. And then she went off to college, and we found out real quick that once she graduated, she didn't have insurance, and this pre-existing monster came out to grab her, but we were lucky enough to be able to pay the COBRA, you know, that bridge between, and help her get individual insurance and supplement her to about $6,000 a year. And when the ACA came out, and extended to young adults, you know, till they were 20-something, I thought to myself how much money we could have saved and how good her health care and her anxiety for having health care would have been diminished or disappeared. Now, my thing is, I hear from you and your party how we are spending so much money that our children are going to inherit a terrible debt, and that they won't be able to have anything because we're just spending like crazy. The reality is we went through a Great Depression, and those individuals that suffered through that, survived that, came out ahead, and somehow all that terrible debt disappeared, and we were pretty flush. I'm afraid that the debt that we're giving to our children, the generations that come after, and I have a brand new grandbaby, and I think about about this. So you always throw that at us. Oh, you people, you know, think about your grandbabies and their babies. Well, my grandbaby is going to have to live in a world where he, and I hope that maybe someday I'll have a she. I have 2 daughters and a son. Won't have to pay the expenses of all those babies right now that aren't getting prenatal because you don't like Planned Parenthood. And I served on the board of Planned Parenthood and lobbied for Planned Parenthood in 2 different states. And I'm a minister, you know. But they're not getting prenatal care. They're not getting education. They're not getting, they wonder how they're going to eat, so they're malnourished. And they're drinking polluted water. And so my grandson is going to grow up with a society filled with young adults who are unable to take care of themselves because of conditions that were preventable. And that's the debt I worry about. I don't give a damn about the money because the reality is you just tax the right people and make them pay their fair share, we wouldn't have any of these problems. Thank you.
You know, people want to talk about a lot, and I think Anand was really right when he said, you know, this is really all part and parcel of the same thing. It's kind of silly to segregate these issues out. It seemed like a good idea at the time when we got it organized. But I just want to say, look, people want to talk about a lot of stuff. Let's just do that. That's the whole objective here, is to give everybody a preview and form. And I don't want to be in a position where we're trying to control anything. I mean, so instead of going through some static list of issues, I just want you to know, just come on up and we'll talk about it.
I totally agree. We've already spent 1 whole hour on healthcare. I just want to say one thing about healthcare. Because here's my question. You kick people off of their insurance. You say they're going to repeal it. They're not going to go to doctors. They're not going to get the health care they need until they get really bad. And then where do they go? They go to the emergency room. They can't pay for the emergency room. And who pays for it?
We do.
We do. So however it happens, the taxpayers are paying for it. So stop the crap of we're going to save you money, because you're not.
Discussion with several people, like, look, people are going to get sick. What are they going to do? They're going to go to an emergency room. And because these guys they don't really have the lack of courage of their own convictions. Okay? But it would take to just say, we don't care, you're poor, die. I mean, they think that. I really believe they do. But they're not willing to just say that and say, no, we're not going to allow emergency rooms to take people in. So they postpone the issue, shove it off, and make it more expensive. Meanwhile, grandstanding about lowering expenses. Anyway, sorry. That's just me being a moderator.
I have one more question, then
Yes,
I gotta go. This will be a good one for you. Only it's
It's not to me. Talk to the companies.
directed to Cornyn, because I wrote this to him too. Senator, did you even read the opinions of Neil Gorsuch before you began supporting him? And why on earth do you show no interest in looking at his previous opinions to judge whether or not he would make a good Supreme Court justice?
Well, I gotta tell you, I'm gonna weigh in and answer what I think he would answer, which is Gorsuch has great hair and he's got a good tan. He's got great hair and a great tan.
That's it.
Why bother with all that stuff about opinions and decisions and come on?
He's a conservative.
Yes, he's very conservative. But I don't even think you would have known that from Gorsuch. You know, I mean, I'd love to say they're applauding the guy. Incidentally, from a lawyer perspective, is, I would say, about 8 degrees to the far right of Anand Scalia. That's how bad this guy is. He's like something that came out from under a rock, like Sessions. Okay? It's horrible. But I'm telling you, you know, all that turned into was, well, gosh, it'd be great. I mean, he's got a great tan, and and look how skillfully he didn't answer a single question. It's like, well, I mean, I can't commit to that. I would just judge every case openly and fairly, like I'd done before, on the basis of the law. But, now we have him. And incidentally, just to, make people feel a little better about the future, I don't know if most of you all realize that Donald Trump is going to get a chance with these hand raisers to appoint about 35% of the entire federal judiciary. Trial judges, Court of Appeals judges, because for 8 years, nobody could get appointed. And now we have an extreme, it's like a crisis level in the federal judiciary. Now, when you look at a state like Texas or other states in the, as I like to call the moron crescent, of the South, and people don't realize that we have no civil rights laws here. The only civil rights protection that you can get is through the federal court system, which will be dominated most likely by 35 to 40-year-old strange people that no one's ever heard of. Probably graduates of Liberty University Law School, who will be appointed by Donald Trump, and I'm sure confirmed by these guys.
Trump University.
Well, that's true. The law school extension and Mayo College at the same time. Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry about the digression. Folks don't realize that it's not about Gorsuch. It's about like the whole bulk of the federal judiciary is getting ready to change forever. I mean, 50 years, I'd call that, at my age, that's forever. So that's something to think about. Yes, ma'am.
I just like to talk about the EPA real quick. The Environmental Protection Agency